So in this video, what I want to do is take you through a couple little tweaks that you could make to be very, very captivating. And with these tweaks, you should be able to change your results from people being kind of repelled from you or being indifferent to you to having it to where people are very, very captivated by you. And when you go out to meet people, you'll hear people screaming, "You're awesome, you're amazing, I love you." And this will be this sort of ongoing thing where you are just electric and people just can't get enough of your attention. But we've got to actually make some changes to make that happen. So the three simple areas, but we're going to go a lot deeper in each of these that we're going to cover is number one, confidence. Confidence in your reality. Number two is the buyer-seller dynamic, the underlying frame between you and the other person that you're not trying to sell yourself, but that rather it's an opportunity to meet you that they actually might want to put in some effort to capitalize on. And the last one is your sense of humor. Okay, we'll focus on those. Okay, for bonus, we might even say having a great place to invite somebody to or social media, but let's just focus on those foundations, and that's kind of what can lead it even better. All right, let's go into this. So the first one being confidence basically means that you have to have a strong sense of your own reality. Now, this is a major issue, and a lot of bizarre things that we've seen in history, especially when you see what happened in 2020, which was really crazy, is a result of people not having this down in my personal view. Here's what it is. As a human being, we are always trying to get a sense of reality. And there's two different places that we can get our sense of reality. One is through our own eyeballs. Like, you can look at reality through your own eyeballs and make a decision for yourself. And the other is that we can look to other people who could tell us what reality is. And so basically, to be mentally strong means that you're somebody who's always not being mentally lazy, but you're actually taking the time to figure out what reality is for yourself. You're actually doing that, okay? You're not just looking to others to tell you how to think. You are experiencing reality for yourself and deciding how to think, but you're still getting amazing mentors, okay? You're not some egomaniac that thinks that you can't learn from people. You're still reading the best books. You're still learning from everybody, but ultimately, you make your own decisions, okay? I have mentors who I'm paying tens of thousands of dollars to, and I've learned a ton. It's really advanced my career. I've had mentors my whole career. At the same time, at the end of the day, I am still responsible for my own opinion. So I'm taking it in and I'm trying it, but at the end of the day, I've got to be responsible for my own opinion, okay? Because I can tell you, even experts have their own challenges. Even with what I'm telling you here, even though I may believe that 100% of what I'm saying is true, it is more important to me that you still look at this through your own eyes. That's even more important to me. Even though I believe you'd be wrong in disagreeing with what I'm saying, I believe that a higher priority than even getting this information is that you think critically, okay? I'd rather, like in my little Owen point of view, even though I believe that I'm right, I would rather that you question what I'm saying. And even if that would mess you up because I was right, I'd rather that you still have that critical filter, because if you don't have that, you're going into mental laziness. And here's what you're doing alternatively. Alternatively, what you're doing is you're letting other people impose their frame of reality on you and letting them teach you how to think. That is very different from having a mentor and being open-minded and trying things out. What that is categorically is mental laziness. Now, here's what we do. What we'll do is we look for people who or opinions that have social proof. Okay, so other people that believe in it, or what you're doing is you're looking at how certain they are in their demeanor. So if there's an alignment in the person's thoughts, words, and actions, that's a line, okay? It's called congruence. If the person who you're meeting is very, very congruent in what they're saying, their thoughts, words, and actions seem aligned. Like, you can see it in the subtle form of communication they have. You can see it in their sense of certainty. Then you just believe them carte blanche. Or what you do is, if other people believe them carte blanche, then you also believe them carte blanche. And this is where you get what you call groupthink. It is something that actually helps human beings, but also hurts us. So for example, if I was thinking of just jumping off the edge of the cliff here, and then I were to see other people in their little mannerisms going, like that as I'm running off the cliff, my brain would kick in and say, hey, maybe I shouldn't do that. But if they're all like, oh, it's fine, then maybe I think it's okay, okay? I can remember once being at a party, and a bunch of people were passing around cocaine, and everybody was doing it so casually that, they passed me this thing, and I literally almost felt myself like, and I take no drugs. So I'm like, what? No, what is this? Like, don't even give this to me. Like, I'm annoyed someone's even handing that to me, but it was so casual, I could almost feel myself just wanting to do it. So from that standpoint, realize that when you have a very, very strong sense of certainty, when you are very, very congruent, when your thoughts, words, and actions are aligned, then what starts happening is other people will tend to look at you as the source that dictates reality. How do you know this? 2020. How do you know this? All the atrocities that have taken place around the world historically, that other people have this groupthink mechanism. It gives us the ability to learn quickly. How do I know not to jump off the cliff? I don't know that from personal experience. I never tried that. How do I know not to eat my own feces? I never tried that to my awareness, but I know this from groupthink. I learned mathematics from groupthink. I learned many different things from groupthink, but it can't be this thing where you're blindly being drawn into that. Now, it's very, very sad as well, because when you lack confidence and you don't feel safe, what winds up happening is that, and this is a whole other level, by the way, this is insane. What starts to happen is your brain, as a safety mechanism, won't even let you think outside the groupthink as a way to keep you safe. Let that land. Okay, so you see things in 2020, you're like, how could this happen? People's minds they won't even allow themselves to think outside of the group think because they are afraid. That is how atrocities happen. So realize that there's many different reasons to get out of groupthink. One is because then other people will look to you as the authority, which is amazing, and it makes you very captivating. But the other is that it actually allows you to experience the full range of human emotion, of human thought. It means that you can actually think outside the box. It means that you could probably come up with that multi-million-dollar business idea, and so on and so forth. So there's a major, major reason to get out of that, out of groupthink, and to start thinking for yourself while having the best mentors in the world. Now, from there, the next one that I talked about that's very, very important to being captivating is the idea of the buyer-seller dynamic. Now, the buyer-seller dynamic is the underlying frame between you and that other person. So here would be an example. Let's say that I'm in a seminar. When I do seminars, I do very, very little selling, even though I'm sure some people might feel that way because I make so many sales. But in truth, I'm doing very, very little selling. I'll give a very creative talk, very artistic, talk about things that are not even really relevant to anybody buying anything, because you could actually do it where you kind of embed things that are relevant. But I'm rarely even doing that, maybe from time to time, but very rare. And what I'll generally do is I'll say, look, at some point I might do like a 7-hour event, but for maybe 2 minutes during a talk, I'll say, look, I have some other things available. If you'd like it, chat me after the event. And you will see people jump up and elbow each other to get a hold of the pens. And the reason why that is because it is very, very clear that I'm already wealthy, that I don't need anything from anybody, that I'm doing people a favor by offering the program, and it is in their advantage to take the program more so than mine. I'm happy they'll do it. I can benefit from it. Absolutely. I love that, but it's not something that I need. And this same dynamic occurs in attraction when it's clear that you're somebody who probably has a lot of other people who want your attention. You're somebody who probably has a lot of other options, and you don't need anything. And what is it that's going to determine that? Well, see, what happens is that anytime that you're trying to make a sale, what winds up happening, and don't be afraid to make sales. I love the topic of sales, but the underlying dynamic in a sale is not that you're selling something. It's that you have something cool that you'd enjoy sharing, but it's an opportunity, not a sale. That has to be very, very clear. Anytime that you are actively kind of trying to coerce somebody into something, there's going to be immediate resistance. It has to be a great opportunity for them at a win-win. So what you're looking for is win-wins. Now, what is one of the major things that determines whether or not it's perceived that way? Well, social proof, like we mentioned, is massive. If you're at a bar club, you can meet a lot of people, and other people see you with a lot of people. That's great. If I'm running a seminar, could be 1,000 people in the room that are watching me speak. That's great. If I'm doing things on a video, there's people watching. That's great. But even beyond that, because you're not always going to have 1,000 people around, you're not always going to have social proof around, is just this basic idea of the first thing that we talked about, which is the idea of you being certain in yourself. Because you believe in yourself, your belief in that buyer-seller dynamic is congruent. Your thoughts, words, and actions are congruent. So because you believe that it's an opportunity for that other person, as long as you believe in that, that is 100% congruent, and then they feel that from you. Then what winds up happening is you meet a bunch of other people, they feel that from you, and you get a bunch of social proof. So it just goes up and up and up from there. You see how this goes? So you can see basically here that what you have is that you have that basic level confidence of you seeing the world through your own eyes and owning your power, owning your attractiveness, owning the fact that you are a great opportunity, then establishing the buyer-seller dynamic to where you are an opportunity, and then that transmits to the other person. If you believe that you're selling something to the other person, that's going to come through in your subcommunication. You're going to tell jokes and go, heh, and raise your eyebrows up and change your vocal pitch and look very approval seeking, and you're going to keep kind of looking to them to determine the reality. And that's not a good thing. You don't want that. So instead what you want is that through all these little micro communications that you're going to make, which I'll cover in many other videos and have for many years, that's going to come out. Now, the last one that we said that we talked about, although we'll have that little bonus too, is the idea of humor. What is that? Well, if somebody has it in their mind that reality, and this, what I'm going to say here is so incredibly subtle that 99.9% of people, even with this caveat, will overlook it because it's so beautiful and so potent that your mind won't even let you see this because it's too beautiful and too amazing. So your mind, you'll be like, no, I'm going to be the one that sees it. I'm going to be the exception. You're not. But I'll say this to you so that in 20 years of you slaying dragons, metaphorically, you can come back and realize what you didn't see. Now, here's what it is. When you are using humor, what it does is that your humor can get a little bit more wacky and a little bit more wacky and a little bit more wacky. And what happens is that when you have a massive certainty in very off-the-wall humor, what begins to happen is the other person is pinging off of you to determine what reality is because you're so certain in it. And especially if you start getting social proof in that. So what winds up happening is that, let's say that somebody has it in their mind, they're like, you know what? I don't think that I would ever do a $20,000 deal with somebody who I've just been talking to for a little bit. Or let's say that you're talking to somebody, they say, you know what, I don't think that I would feel that incredible attraction and run off on a wild adventure with somebody who I'm just meeting. So let's say that's part of their reality. But what begins to happen is that you're so grounded in your own frame and you're so wacky and off the wall that it begins to ping to that other person, wait a minute, maybe there's a whole other reality that I don't even know exists. Maybe there's this whole other set of rules. So what happens is this, and this is incredibly subtle. If you are very, very congruent, you're aligned in your thoughts, words, and actions, you are very, very confident in your reality, and you're somebody who is, the buyer-seller dynamic is very much stacked in your favor, then when you're that grounded, that allows you to be a little bit more wacky and a little bit more off the wall. If you're not that grounded, then you want to go with a little bit more subtle humor, not that off the wall, because it's a little bit too weird and people won't buy in. But when you're that grounded, and you've got to ultimately gauge this, because day to day your confidence is going to ebb and flow and whatnot. We're aiming towards getting total confidence, but it's going to ebb and flow ultimately. Basically what happens is that when you are at your absolute most grounded, you can do it to where, say that I said something funny to you, but then let's say that as I said something funny to you, then I kind of threw a napkin at you. If initially I just said hi to you and I threw a napkin at you, that wouldn't be that funny, right? You're like, why'd you throw a napkin at me? But let's say that you're rolling over laughing in tears, and then I throw a napkin at you, and now you're just laughing because it's so off the wall, it's so crazy. Now let's say from there, I pull out a bottle of water and I start shooting it all over the room. And again, this is the kind of thing that you've got to understand the nuance of it. But let's say that you're just having fun. Again, it's among friends. That's a consensual thing. Everybody's having fun, just kind of playing around, and that it's a win-win. That's a well-established boundary, not random people you don't know. But let's just say that you're doing that. Well, then what happens is that now they laugh even more, right? Like literally just like soaking yourself down. Now people are like, ah, right? So it starts off like kind of funny thing. Then they're like, ah, then she's like, ah, now I'm making crazy voice. Whoa, you're like, ah, and you're just going crazy, right? Well, that only works when you have the foundation. And that was probably a pretty bad example of it, but you catch my point. You see me doing this on stage. I get, right? So, now you're doing accents. Now you're going crazy. You can't just do that as a lead-in. But if you have become very, very grounded in your reality, you just view yourself as an opportunity. You don't want anything from anybody. And then you get a little bit off the wall. Now what happens, like, wait a minute, maybe this is the better way to be. And the reason why that is because human beings were always socially pinging off of each other to determine what reality is. And if you're completely grounded in that reality, here's what's actually happening. It's incredibly subtle. At a base level, what's happening is you have now collapsed the criteria of what is cool. Okay, this is key. Again, you're not going to understand this because you're going to choose not to, but if you just chose to, you could change your life. What's happening is that rather than saying, I need to have a car, I need to be a rich millionaire, I need washboard abs, I got to be well endowed, and I have to have these things I'm told I need. Ooh! Okay, instead of doing that, what you do is and then only when you have all those ducks in a row, then you can own your own frame. Only then. Instead, what you do is you collapse that and you say, just my authentic expression, just me existing, just me being connected to my higher power, just me being me actually empowers me to be myself and to express authentically, because the self is always coming through. People enjoy that. And so, you know, I'm going to calibrate and kind of see where I'm at and see where they're at, and using the common sense kind of little tips that I gave you. But when you collapse those criteria, and then instead of viewing the win as I'm only winning when I have the supercar, but instead what you say is I'm winning when I'm joking around, what begins to happen is now you are grounding yourself in that humor in your own reality. You are now the one determining reality, and you're pulling that reality in as you being the determiner of reality. Then what happens is now you have that buyer-seller dynamic, and what's happening within that buyer-seller dynamic is that you are establishing that at a very high level. So let's say that you view it that you are the great opportunity for the other person you do business with. Let's say that you view that you are the more attractive one between the two of you, even though the person you're talking to is insanely attractive, and you're like, how could they ever think that I'm attractive? And it's tempting to feel that way. But when you can do this properly, then what happens that your appearance doesn't matter so much, the speed that things are moving forward doesn't matter so much, and you become the exception to the rule. And that doesn't mean to just assume that and like assert yourself onto someone ever. It's all about win-win. It's about checking in with them to see where they're at. It's about, you know, it's always about consent and so on and so forth. That's just common knowledge, but I want to repeat it here anyway. But at the same time, I want you to understand at a core level that what happens is that now you are that very, very special person, to where normally if somebody would have all these, like, you know, different criteria that they would need to respect you, or you'd have to look a certain way for them to be into you, instead they see you differently, because for the same reason that people in 2020 just kind of, you know, they just sort of do what they're told or whatever, in the same way, you become that centerpiece and grounding pole in reality. That is why as you get into this and you get funnier and funnier, all of a sudden it's like, no, I could never, to I'm having fun. That's the fun thing to do. And now you become a leader in such profound ways. So I've had many, many different videos where I've talked about how it is to establish this. A major one is just go out more frequently, practice it. Another one that I've done is have it to where people, you know, tease each other, maybe even diss each other, and you've got to hold your frame. Another one of it can just be used to talking and joking and getting out of your own way. There's many, many different exercises that I like to do, and I ultimately like being around people who get this stuff. I want to be around more people who get this stuff. And so that is why I also do a private group, a private mentorship, and if you think that you're somebody who can actually add energy to that group, click the link below and we'll start a conversation. But I'll tell you something, you've got to be the kind of person that adds to the group, because the kind of people that I've got in my private group are amazingly talented and bring a lot of value. And you could be somebody who becomes that person within the group, and that's fine too, as long as you're a star and you're taking action, or you could be somebody who's already there and you want to add to it. So click that link below and we can start a conversation if you want to be a part of being in a group with people that get this stuff, because there's so many people that don't. Frankly, you see the tide turning these days to where everybody thinks they have to have everything to be at the core center of reality, and you don't. In fact, if anything, yes, it's good to have money. Yes, it's good to look great. But if you're using that as a criteria to allow yourself to be at the center of reality, you are weak and you don't get how this works. I'm sorry if somebody doesn't have a great sense of humor. I'm sorry if somebody can't have confidence without needing a million different things. I'm sorry if somebody says, with my Canadian accent, sorry, I'm sorry if they believe that by just feeling good now, you wouldn't be motivated, when in fact, by feeling good now, you'd feel incredibly motivated, because the energy of creation would be flowing out from you and you'd want to take action massively. I'm sorry there's a lot of misinterpretations like that. I don't get it, but I'm just going to keep banging the drum because I want to help you. I want to see you win, and I might even want to work with you. So click the link below if you think that's the case. And in the meantime, start cultivating these qualities. I'm sitting out here in Cascade, Northern Washington. I want to come out here for a long time, and I want to share this with you for a long time to just get back some core fundamentals. So I hope that you enjoyed it. And I'm going to be shooting tomorrow, probably to Rainier or to Olympic, and then I'm going to be shooting into my Seattle event. You're probably seeing this after that. Then shooting down to San Fran for a free event there, and then shooting in Chicago, Dallas, Houston, Austin, Boston, DC, San Diego, LA, Miami, and we're going to be doing a ton of free events. So many of these, and I'm going to be helping you in person at those as well, so that you can take this on for yourself and change your life. Hope you enjoyed the video. Talk to you soon. Peace.